Hi folks, I'm Sheila and welcome to Counsellor Convos. Let's get stuck in. Hi folks, welcome to another episode of Counsellor Convos, and today I'm delighted to be joined with Steve. Hello Steve.
Hello, how are you, Sheila?
I'm good. So for any new listeners, I just let you know that for myself, I'm Sheila. I'm a registered mental health counsellor. Love talking about mental health. Love bringing on guests who are open to talk about mental health. And that's why you're here, Steve. So if you want to just introduce yourself in whatever way you feel comfortable to do so to our listeners.
Okay, Sheila, my name's Steven Quance. 54 years old, Great Bar born and bred, proud Brummie. Been a jeweller for the past 38 years, had my business for the past, 33 of those.
Yeah.
Got a wonderful family, 4 children, 1 grandchild. Live in Shenston now, beautiful part of the world. Very lucky to live there. Very lucky in lots of aspects. But have had my struggles as well, like a lot of people.
Yeah, and fair play to you, Steve, because I know that you're open to talk about some of those struggles in the hope that it may help other people too. And especially when you say your age, you say 54, Steve, is that what you said?
I am, yeah.
And you know what? That's one of the highest rates of suicide within men, that age group.
Do you know, unfortunately, it's a bit of a somber note. I don't want to bring the conversation down, but I hear one of the pupils at my daughter's school today has taken her own life as well, which is very sad, and that's not the first. That's one of 5 since she's been at school, and she's only in the 4th year at school. So
This is one of the pupils. So
yeah.
this is one of the pupils at the school. Wow. Well, first of all, I'm very sorry to hear that, first of all.
Yeah.
Which again shows it's so important that we talk about
It's the first thing we said to my children tonight, and we're lucky that my children are very open. We're not strict parents, but they know their right and wrong. They know their manners and whatever else. But they also know that they can talk to us about absolutely anything. And it's the first thing we said to both of them this evening on Hearing the Bad News is that anything, you've got to open up and talk about it, because there's much truth in a problem shared is a problem halved.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I'm loving the fact you have this openness with your family. That sounds straight away when it comes to mental health. Do you think openness is so important to open up that communication?
100%. I mean, as a generation, I think we're very lucky. If you go back to my nan and granddad's age, granddad used to sit on the sofa. He'd have a flat cap on. He'd have his tie on, his suit. He'd be very, and he'd only be maybe 60, 70 years of age. Nowadays, I sit there, my trainers, and we're still very close to our kids, to their generation, as old as we are. And I think that makes it far easier for us to open up and talk about growing up, and talk about drinking, and talk about drugs, and talk about all sorts of things that happen within life that can then take a twist to make you do something different within your life, which then leads to maybe a problem, maybe something that you can't control.
Yeah, it's almost like if you don't talk about it, then nothing can be done about it. And it's addressing those kind of generational behaviours when people didn't talk, to have, generations where we do talk. Steve, going back to that kind of statistic about men in their 50s, why do you think men in their 50s struggle so much?
Wow. I mean, I know we had a brief conversation for you to get an insight. And I spoke about that fabulous saying, midlife crisis.
Yeah.
I honestly, I would have laughed it off, and it's said in so many jokes and comical terms.
Yeah.
but I am living proof. There is a midlife crisis. I haven't bought a Harley Davidson yet or got another tattoo or whatever else. But joking aside, so many things happen in your life at the turn of 50. Your body's just not responding like it used to. It's reacting differently to certain things. Certain things in life happen. Parents start to deteriorate in health. Your kids grow up and start to give you other problems that are a little bit more in depth than they were when they just had to change their nappies. Work and everything else. It for a lot of people it becomes a real chore, a real bind, and you've had 50 years to get into debt possibly, and those debts have built up. Money worries are always key. But that's
absolutely, Steve. There's so much you've mentioned that, like the body changes when people hit 50, and for women too. You talk about the midlife crisis. Nothing wrong with a Harley Davidson. I got my full motorbike license 2 years ago, so you could say me hitting my midlife crisis. But it's true. Aging parents, kids become teenagers, become young adults themselves. They're bringing new problems, financial issues. So I'm wondering, Steve, you come across to me as your typical lad. Here you are, great bar, working in jewellery quarter, jewellers, very sociable guy. I'm only getting the pleasure of getting to know you because you were referred to me, for us to have a chat. So, I love the fact of, the lad and stuff like that. Well, it's interesting about it makes me curious then for you then, Steve, in your life, did you think kind of mental health, it kind of happens to other people? Or were you always kind of mindful of mental health, depression, anxiety, that it can happen to anyone?
I found out about mental health, I think, quite early on, about 24, 25. I was getting into a few little scrapes, a few problems.
Okay.
Mum got hold of me one day. I'm sorry to use this term, but that's the way we used to talk in the olden days. Mum said, you got to go and see a shrink. You got to go and see someone. You got to go and talk. I was getting into trouble and I wasn't talking. I was locking it all in. And that trouble was manifesting itself within anger and violence and whatever else.
Steve, this was when you were age 24, 25?
Yeah, 24, 25, getting arrested. I wasn't a troublemaker, and I still say that to this day, but used to act on other people's rudeness, and that action then would involve violence. And looking back, I wouldn't change a thing because it made me the person I am today. But what it did do as well is it opened the door. I went to see this person. I'd never met them before. They were my age that I am now. I sat in front of them, a 24, 25-year-old, like you say, a bit of a Jack the Lad. I know it all. And I sat and talked to this person. And for the first half hour, they must have thought, we're not going to get anything here. All of a sudden, something clicked. Something released in me that I'm talking to a complete stranger and I'm no holes barred. I'm telling them everything. And it was like someone released the pressure valve.
Wow.
It just came out of me, including emotionally. I don't mind telling you, I wear my heart on my sleeve. My emotions are not locked in. It's something my friends will tell you, people that watch this, I'm probably wearing tinted glasses nowadays to hide tears. I'll cry at Coronation Street,
And good for you, Steve.
I'm an emotional person, but to talk, wow. It was, and then all of a sudden, I wasn't on my own. I wasn't on my own. All of a sudden, I'd speak, and other people have got that problem. Other people felt like I did.
Yeah.
And then you could bounce things off of those other people in that conversation because all of a sudden there were people that felt like you.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Steve. I'm loving you sharing this. Just looking back at that, so you're bottling up all this stuff, didn't talk. You had this anger going on. It was coming out in the wrong ways, and then seeing somebody, and then something, as you say, the pressure valve, something just switched, and all of a sudden it starts to come out, and straight away you're feeling so much better. You're realizing that you're not on your own, and you don't have to talk to a shrink or a counselor, even talking to your mates, because honestly, everybody goes through shite.
Yeah, yeah. I found a lot of help in talking to the opposite sex. I was
Yeah,
very lucky to have some close friends at school, and later years through my 20s, that were girlfriends, never in a relationship, but very close friends.
yeah.
And the opposite sex has another outlook on it, another twist. Maybe in my case, a little bit more of a sympathetic
Okay.
view.
Did you
And
feel like, Steve, sorry, Steve, did you feel like at the time we mentioned about this laddish culture, did you feel like that there wasn't really the opportunity to speak to other blokes your own age?
yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I started to get comfortable by my 30s. You knew I was,
Yeah.
and didn't hide any of that. And people knew what I was in the past, and they respected that. But at the same time, they also respected, you know, the person I was turning into, the person I portrayed when I opened up and spoke to people. I started to get help actually from one of my very good friends. Her mother was a nurse,
Yeah.
having to deal with people in, those situations on a daily basis, and she had a very, very similar accent to you. You're very bubbly as well. You're very. She was very calming. I can remember talking to her once on the phone and nearly falling asleep on the end of the phone. She was a very calming, like, accent lady, but she listened as well as spoke some good advice. That is, for people out there that maybe haven't got the problems, but know people that have, listening is as important as as offering advice,
Yeah.
as talking. And I think the fact that the parents were that little bit removed from my life, so it wasn't my best friend, it wasn't my mum, it wasn't my dad,
Mm.
it was someone else's parents. They could give an unbiased opinion, and I think that helped a lot in those
Yeah.
darker times.
You know what, Steve? Do you know what it makes me think of actually? It makes me think of some of my clients who are in their 50s, depending on where they were brought up. Sometimes they were brought up in environments where there was gangs, where there was kind of violence, where there was kind of an expectation of who could be the strongest, who could beat up who, almost like survival of the fittest. Like I wonder, did you have any of that in your areas when you were growing up?
Oh, it's in every young man.
Yeah,
I have to speak for males because obviously I am one,
yeah,
but it's in every young man.
yeah.
The bravado, the wanting to be respected, to to be liked in a way, and a lot of people, including myself, hid behind them, because there
Exactly.
was there
Yeah.
was a lot there was a lot more going on behind the scenes than a Friday, a Saturday night tear up where you proved to your mates and whatever else that you could look after yourself.
Steve, it's very interesting. Let me know what you'll take of this. I know that a client of mine will not mind me sharing this. That I was in a session, somebody similar age to yourself, and we were talking about when they were younger, and basically their dad was telling them that you never walk away, you always stand up for yourself, you always fight them, and he was saying the same thing to his children, and I was kind of highlighting, well, have you ever thought about the difference in over time, and now you talk about knives and acid and stuff like that, whereas years ago you'd have your fight and it was almost more so accepted, but it was almost like you wouldn't see as much knives or acid or stuff like that. And Whereas now it's a different ball game, and it was like, in a way, I had to highlight to him that if, let's say, like, you're encouraging your son to go out now, no matter who wants to fight with you, you fight them back. But if, let's say, the other person has a knife and he ends up being killed, will you still be giving out that advice? And he was like, no. So do you know
No.
what I mean? It's an interesting one because I get that years ago when you'd have the scuffs, you'd have the fights, and in a way, part of that would get out some people's anger and aggression.
100%. That's what it was for me. That's what it was for me.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
100%. But my son's completely opposite. There he is there.
Oh
He does
wow,
all
what a
his
picture!
he does all his talking on the rugby pitch.
Oh, okay.
And thankfully he's a bigger man to now. If God forbid there was any problems outside of the sport, he don't get me wrong, he'd look after his friends.
Yeah.
You know, I think he'd act correctly in the situation. You know, it's funny. You say that dad was advising, you know, stand up for yourself and fight. I think advice changes as you get older, because
Yeah.
when you're younger, you don't want to be bullied, and you know, you should be standing up for yourself. And if you can't stand up for yourself, hopefully there's other people around you that stand up against the bullies for you and whatever else. But as you get older, definitely, like you say, I mean, you know, I do. The jury's out for me. Was it any worse today than it is in my day? I think now we've got social media, and now we've got, you know, knife crime is just everywhere because everyone has got a video camera on them.
Yeah.
You know, but back in the day, I can remember people carrying weapons, whatever else. You know, you should not, no matter how tough you are, you should not rely on that and try and defend yourself in that way, because it is very, very easy for someone that maybe isn't feeling that as confident, as carrying something because of that lack of confidence, to get that out and defend themselves that way. And
the thing is, Steve, is that what we're talking about here is, what if you're not a big bloke? What if you're not macho? It's almost unfair to expect that an innocent child growing up is meant to kick the shite out of somebody else just so they can be liked. You know, when you actually think about it, and I love the fact you mentioned about your son doing the rugby, because that's what I'm talking about here, different outlets for anger. Like in my office cabin in my private practice, I've what I call the ankle cushion, and I get blokes to kick the shit out of it. At the point on the client earlier on, I was like, "Will I leave it to it?" They were like, "Yes, please." You know, that we need healthy outlets for anger. Anger's a great emotion, but if it's bottled up, we just flip it. We lose our shite, and then sometimes we lose our relationships. We've got anger issues. Like your son, the fact he plays rugby, most rugby players are the most calm, relaxed blokes because they take it out in the field. By the way, should we talk about the Six Nations? Are you are a Six Nations fan,
no,
Steve?
no, we shan't. No, no, we're
No,
good.
England beat France, so come on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll take that. We'll take that. You have your glory while it lasts. That's
I
fine.
will, Steve. I will. Thank you very much.
That's fine.
So, Steve, if you don't mind sharing a bit about kind of your tougher times, whatever you're happy to share about your own story, because I know you've been through shite yourself.
Yeah, so I was lucky to be free of my tough times for a good few years. I might even want to say, you know, close on 15 years possibly.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden last year, in fact, January of last year, so, you know, just over 12 months, something happened in work to trigger this feeling alien. You know, I'm very outgoing. I'm very, you know, loud. I'm a gobshite, you know.
You're not a gobshite, you're great.
I didn't want to get out of bed.
Okay.
I was scared of the day ahead.
Oh.
I had to break the day down.
Yeah.
Getting home, getting back into knowing I was going to bed again was such a comfort feeling. Getting into that bed, I was going to bed at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, just wanting to shut the world away.
Yeah.
But then I was waking up every morning, and I can only describe it as it took me 4 times to pass my driving test. Right? I was someone that lived on my nerves, and nerves went against me during that exam. But every morning I woke up for that test, my butterflies would go, and that's exactly the same feeling as I had last year. And I had this feeling for 2, 3, feeling of almost being sick. And then because of my job, because I deal in little precious things, and if I couldn't put my hands on something straight away, if I couldn't find it straight away, it was lost. Straight away in my head, it was lost.
Yeah.
And then a complete blind panic would come over me, and the day just went to shit. I just couldn't do anything. And then you'd find it in the most stupidest place, or you'd find it where you'd put it because you were organised. Because I've been doing this job for so long, you find it where you put it. I'd be going home. I'd think to myself, I haven't locked the safe. I'd turn round in the traffic. I'd come back. The safe was locked. It was because I'd done it and thought about it. Great little tip here. So I saw someone very much in your position about that particular problem.
Yeah.
Locking the safe. So when I'm locking the safe, I say it to myself.
Yeah.
And I know then I'm not going to have to drive back because I know I've locked the safe. There was times where I'd be in the traffic. I'd think of a job. Where's that job? I'd look in my bag. I couldn't see the wood for the trees because all of a sudden my head was just,
you were blindsided.
I'd lost the job before I'd even looked for it.
Yeah.
And then
that fear, Steve. Yeah.
I'd turn around in the traffic again. I'd come back. I'd look in the safe. I'd look everywhere. Then I'd turn the bag out. There's the job in the bag.
Wow.
At the bottom, and it was.
Do you know something, Steve? Just to pause with that, the things we say to ourselves are so important. The language we use, because if we tell ourselves, it's like our brain is a bit like Google. And if we put into Google no lemons, there'll be feckin' lemons all over the place. So if we put into our mind, I can't find, I've lost it. It can be right there in front of us. But because we have convinced ourselves, usually based on fear, false evidence appearing real, but we've convinced ourselves so much that the brain, it doesn't want to fool us. It wants us to go with what we're telling it, so it's not there, even though it is. So we need to be really mindful of not only the underlying fear, but the stuff we're saying to ourselves. And that's a great example of that, Steve. It'd be right there in front of you, but because you were so convinced and so caught up in worry and fear and all that anxiety, not able to see it.
Yeah, it's very controlling. We've touched on money problems. Anyone in business, cash flow is always an issue, but you would find problems that weren't even there, and then you would add that to the problem that was there. Then you would find another problem, and before you knew where you were stacking up these problems, and and this is why mornings were the worst. They were horrible because you hadn't broke anything down of that day. To break things down in that day was some kind of release, some kind of relief. And when you got through the end of the day and you hadn't had a problem, fingers crossed, everything had gone okay, then you could go home, shut the world away. And it was very, very worrying.
Steve, how long were you in that place? How long was that going on, that spiral, that pattern, can't wait to go to bed, dreading getting up?
I think that might have been a 2.5 month period. Yeah, I've said to you I was emotional.
Yeah.
But wow, I would just cry at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
The slightest thing would set me off. And I mean,
yeah, Steve, do you have any idea what that was all about? I mean, it sounds like you were completely overwhelmed with everything.
Well, sometimes you didn't even know why you was crying. You was just that et up. That was a release in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like I've said to you, I don't hide behind that. I don't mind at all.
Yeah.
And my wife saw this, and there was a great source of comfort from there. Friends have seen it, and wow, like I've said before, speaking to them, yes, it didn't help initially because I was that wrapped up in it.
Yeah.
But just to talk, it was just chipping away at then taking the advice to go and see the doctor, taking the advice to explain to a professional how you was feeling, and yeah, getting some help.
Wow. Wow, Steve. I mean, thank you so much for sharing this because there'll be so many people listening to this that can relate to being in that turmoil. And that's what it sounds like. You know, when things are just getting too overwhelming, it gets too much. Your head is just full up. You're ready to explode. The only comfort you're getting is going to bed. But then when you get up, it's like that dread again, that full. And well done in reaching out and asking for help and speaking to your friends. It sounds like your friends encouraged you to go to the doctor and family too.
Yeah, my wife had postnatal depression. She's experienced help from the medical profession, and
Yeah.
I think listening to her and some of her friends that were in a similar position. Listen, I think I was a little bit of a, male type. I don't need tablets and whatever else, but
Yeah.
if it helps,
If it helps, exactly, Steve. If it helps. What happened then? So you went to the doctor. What happened after that then?
So they were, there's a lot said about the NHS and the way that it's falling apart. And I suppose when you experience going to hospital nowadays, you do see that. But
Yeah.
although we didn't get any face-to-face appointments, the doctor that spoke to me was very, very concerned,
Yeah.
very sympathetic, and very, very helpful,
Yeah.
to the point where I had to ring in on a weekly basis.
Okay.
I had to let them know that I wasn't going to harm myself,
Yeah.
and they wanted some feedback on how they thought the tablets were working.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm back on the road to recovery. I'm glad to tell you.
Wow, Steve. Wow. I mean, at any point were you concerned about your own safety?
54 years old, you're bound to experience many things in life, and I've had a few people that I know very closely that have done what we spoke about that young girl doing earlier.
Yeah.
I'm don't get me wrong, I don't know where their mind is at or whatever else when people decide that they want to do that. I am someone that feels as though it's not about the person that's done the deed, it's about the people they leave behind. And
Yeah.
I couldn't put my family through that.
Yeah.
I would just talk. I would,
Yeah. Yeah.
what I'm doing very well at the moment, let me tell you, and I really don't know how I'm doing this. And my son sent me this video. He sent me a video of Conor McGregor. And
Yes.
Conor McGregor is sat on the stage and he's speaking about wasted energy. As
Oh,
an athlete, he's speaking about wasted mindful energy. And he
yeah.
says, why worry about things in the past? You cannot change what has happened in the past. And then he said, why waste your energy on worrying about what happens in the future?
Yeah.
Because, like me, when I was in the dark places, I'd be thinking about, they'd never happen as bad as I was thinking about them. And when they came to the fore, you'd deal with them anyway. So that was over. So why have you wasted all that energy worrying about what might happen when it doesn't happen anyway? He said, live for the day.
Yeah.
And I still pinch myself now to think that I'm actually, don't get me wrong, we have a few little dips. I've had one today,
Yeah.
you know.
That's understandable. That's pure. That's natural, Steve. You know?
Living for today. Wow, it's, you know, it is. If you can do it, if you can practice it,
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
Do you know what, Steve? It absolutely is, because at the end of the day, you and I, the only thing we really have is this very moment. That's the only thing we really have. That the future hasn't happened yet. As you say, the past has already happened. You like it's not a concept of time. You know, like you and I are chatting now, and sometimes it's hard to believe that it'll be tomorrow, it'll be next week, it'll be next year. And you'll hear people say the time goes fast, and it does actually. And sometimes we're not really aware of that. But if we can pull ourselves back in a moment, it's like the other stuff in the future that hasn't happened. Like we don't know what the future holds, but what we've got is the right here, right now. And if we could be really present, that is amazing. Now, Steve, and you know, Conor McGregor talk amazing. That spoke from somebody who's not in the depths of depression. Do you know what I mean? It's a very different ball game when you're in the depths of depression. You can't just snap out of it. You can't. I'm just going to be in the moment and forget about my worries. It's far more complex than that.
Yeah,
you know,
it's good. It's good to have knowledge of that tool, because yes, you are right. You've got to seek more help, more maybe medical help or whatever else before you get to the stage that I'm telling you. I live now in the moment for today. But if you don't know about that tool, then hopefully people that are listening to this take that on board, because for me at the moment, it's given me, I'm on an upward curve.
You're on a journey, Steve. I can tell you're on a journey.
I'm on a journey. I'm on a journey to help people that have been in my position, because selfishly that helps me.
And it's not selfish. It's a win-win. It's not selfish.
Yeah.
It's a win-win.
I was excited to do this for you. If this goes out there and one person hears this and just thinks maybe I was like Steve, or you know, maybe they reach out to you and just have a chat, or reach out to anyone and have a chat, then you know that's been work.
Steve, if somebody actually came in. So do you have an actual jewellers in the jewellery quarter?
I have like an office where I have an appointment only, and
what's the name of it? Just if anybody does want to reach out to you.
My mother said, this is very egotistical of you, Stephen.
Okay.
But I'm a personal jeweller, so my jeweller's name is Steven Charles Quance.
Lovely.
Sounds very regal, doesn't it? Huh?
And Steve, for the listeners, just showed me the picture of the Queen. As he said,
there you go.
Up behind him. So tell me the name of that again, Stephen.
Steven Charles Quance.
Lovely. And people can book appointments. So obviously you're jewellers, but I'm hearing that you're more than a jewellers. You're a bloke who's open to talk about your own experience, and you're open to support other guys who have been through similar experiences too.
110%. You could put my number out on here. I wouldn't mind. If people wanted to ring me randomly, I will spend however long it takes to just listen, and then maybe tell them about my, because everyone's so different, but tell them about my experiences and see if there was any chance that could help.
You know what, Steve? Let's put your money where your mouth is. What's your number?
Okay, so my number is 078 55
078 55
444
444
88.
Do you say 88?
Yeah, 9.
9. Okay. Do you know? Well, I hope you don't regret that. I hope you're not completely inundated.
Well, if I am, then that has done some good, hasn't it? 100%. But I think after speaking to you for only a couple of times, they're probably better to reach out to you, Sheila, than they are me. But yeah, however they feel comfortable.
It's just reaching out. Like, I'm a firm believer, it's the rapport, it's the relationship. And whether somebody's a counselor or not, if there's something about them that's relatable and you feel comfortable with, that's a massive factor to that. If somebody feels, you know what, I can open up to that person, I can come in and have a chat, I can maybe ring up Steve and say, Steve, I'm in the junior quarter, can we go for a cuppa? I was listening to your podcast, I'd love for us to have a bit of a chat. It is about helping each other because it's a win-win. It's not selfish at all. It's a win-win. And, you know, if our chat today can encourage people to reach out to whoever, you know, and that's really kind of you to offer your number, Steve. I love that. That's amazing. That is.
I've got one more trick that I can tell you about as well.
Yeah.
So we spoke about midlife, and when I was 42, I boxed, white collar boxing.
Okay.
Bear in mind my background of playing up as a youngster.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I boxed for 4 or 5 years. I only fought twice. And the reason for that was I was too scared to put my name forward to fight in these white collar events to raise money for charity. And when my trainer, who had trained me then for, I think it was getting on to 3 years, said to me, why haven't you put your name down for a show yet?
Yeah.
I said to him openly, I said, I'm scared.
Yeah.
And that was the scariest thing. The 2 fights was the scariest thing I'd ever done. I used to drive to the training, to the sparring, and I'd be that nervous, I'd pull over on the side of the road and I'd be sick. But you know what? Taking yourself outside of your comfort zone during midlife is the absolute key to eternal youth. I promise you that. Right?
Yeah, push yourself out your comfort zone.
I'm very proud to say I didn't lose. I drew my first fight. I won the second fight. I raised a lot of money for the air ambulance at the time. But I walked around on air for about 3-4 months after. I felt an absolute $1 million because I'd taken myself outside of my comfort zone and done something for other people as well, for another charity. And it was just an absolute, the feeling was euphoric.
Yeah.
I followed on to do then Kilimanjaro and a volcano, the largest live volcano in the world, Hostel Salado in Chile. That was for a fantastic charity in Nechel's called Free at Last, and for a cancer charity called Help Harry Help Others. Again, I'm going to say that was selfish because I don't like walking. I don't like mountains. I think it's boring. I'd rather get on a motorbike or do some mountain biking, something speed, something fast, something daring.
Steve, hang on a minute, Steve. If you've done stuff that you absolutely don't like doing, but you've done it for the greater good for the people, how is that selfish?
Well, it was selfish because when I came back and I'd earned the money for the charities, it gave me that euphoric feeling. That's what I mean. I think, you know, I was doing it in the long game for myself. Anyway, the point is, if you are middle-aged and you're in this comfort bubble, you've done okay for yourself, you're paying the bills, you've not got any highs like passing your driving test, your exams, getting promotion at work, etc., because you're already where you are, you're in this little cotton wool ball, you must be taking yourself out of that. You must be doing things that sometimes maybe I do cold water dipping every morning. I don't like doing it. It gets no easier. In fact, when you're breaking the ice, it's fucking cold, let me tell you.
I'm thinking, why? Why?
What a way to start the day, doing that challenge. What a way to start the day. When I get out of there and I get into the cold shower and I get out of there and I put my clothes on, I've completed that challenge. I didn't need to do it. But I've completed that challenge. And that's the best way to start a day, taking yourself out of your comfort zone and doing something that, helps others, and as well as yourself, but you don't like doing.
Wow, Steve. Steve, you are so inspirational. I am so excited for you, Steve, because when we spoke earlier in the week, you are at the start of this journey of wanting to tell your story, wanting to inspire other people. And I'm so excited for you, Steve. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. Steve, how can people find you on social media?
So they can find me under Steven Quance on Facebook.
Spell that. I had to get you to spell Quance. Go on, spell that.
Quance.
Where does that name come from? Don't say no more.
So that name comes from Cornwall, apparently. Yeah. We had I met a guy, nice guy, owns a company called Footsteps, and his job was to trace people's family trees.
Oh wow!
Fabulous insight into the family, and Quance comes from Cornwall apparently.
So go on, Steve. So your social media. So what is it? Are you Instagram, LinkedIn?
So a lot of my social media is work based on Instagram and places like that. So that is the Instagram is at SC Quance.
At SE or SC?
SC, Stephen Charles, SC.
Of course, Charles, of course, yes.
Yeah, I think it is anyway. I've got a lady that does my Instagram. I'm not sure whether that's changed. I might have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
But if anyone wants to reach out and can find me in other ways, on Facebook it is Steven Quance, and the work side of it is Stephen Charles Quance Fine Jewellery.
Stephen Charles Quance Fine Jewellery. Love it. Love it. Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure spending time with you today.
I did well. I only swore once, didn't I?
Do you know what? You've done very well, because when we chatted earlier on the week, he was effing and blind to listen. I said, Steve, I'm loving the fact that you're a character. I'm loving the fact, that you're going with it, but we may need to tone down the bad language, or bend the bed in this, or bleep, bleep, bleep. So listen, folks, please feel free to comment if there's anything that you've heard that Steve and I have been talking about and you can really relate to. I'd love to hear your comments. This is going to go out on my YouTube channel, Sheila's YouTube channel. It'll go out in other kind of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, stuff like that. But we love getting people's comments, because I'm a firm believer of helping each other here. So, folks, please share this. We hope that you found this helpful. Again, Steve, thank you so much for your time.
Sheila, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Absolutely.
And don't say f*** or bugger, remember.
Listen, we'll just leave it to the Six Nations, okay?
Get away with ya.
Come on, Ireland. See you, Steve.
Thank you for watching Counsellor Convos with Sheila McMahon. If you've enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel.